next chapter in your second module, that is know your user or client. So in the journey of designing the user interface or screen design, you have to actually begin with understanding the system user. So it is the most important part of the designing process, that is understanding the system user. So what do you mean by this? Understanding people and what they do is very difficult, and it is undervalued process, but is very critical because of the gap in knowledge, skills and attitudes existing between system users and developers that build them. So there will be always a gap between a system designer or UI designer and the people who actually use it, because the people's knowledge or the skills, attitudes will be totally different from the designer's knowledge, is it? So here, to create a truly usable system, the designer must always do the following. Okay, he has to think of understanding how people interact with computers. Okay, so designer must understand how people interact with computers. He also has to understand human characteristics, that is important in design part. So this we'll be studying in detail, human characteristics. And next thing is the designer also has to identify the user's level of knowledge and experience, and also he has to identify the characteristics of users' tasks and jobs, and designer must identify the user's psychological characteristics, and also he has to identify the user's physical characteristics and employ recommended methods for gaining understanding of users. So these are the points that has to be kept in mind while designing any user interface. Okay. Important human characteristics in design. So here actually humans interact continuously with the user interface. So here his sensations are has to be looked into to understand the uh, designing of a particular user interface. Okay, to understand better in a better manner. So here the first point is perception. Perception is actually our awareness and understanding of elements and objects of our environment that are through the physical sensation of our various senses. So we may sense through our eyes, ears, or you can say through your hands. Okay, these are the physical senses whatever we have, so that using these senses we'll be interacting with the computers or the systems. So perception is our awareness and understanding of elements and objects of our environment through physical sensation of our various senses. Okay, through the various senses we'll be interacting with the system. So perception is influenced in part by experience. So this is all by, it's influenced by experience. So you have user experience also, can say. So we classify stimuli based on models stored in our memories, and in this way we achieve certain tasks. Okay. So here if we are looking into the perception in detail, perceptual characteristics include proximity, continuity, closure, symmetry, similarity, all these points we are going to study in detail. Okay, so we have perceptual characteristics. This we call it as perceptual characteristics. What are those? Proximity, continuity, similarity, matching patterns. closure, unity, continuity, balance, expectancies. So all this, so many you have. Okay, let me tell you in detail. Perceptual characteristics include proximity. So what is meant by proximity is actually our eyes and mind see objects as belonging together if they are near each other in space. So that means here if you are seeing you have one, two, three objects. Okay. So first two objects are very near, kept very near, and there is a difference between second and third object. Okay, there is a gap between second and the third object. So we conclude that these two are taken together. Okay, the first two objects are taken together. That is called proximity. Okay, and or you say this as this is considered as one group and this is the other group. Okay, and you have similarity. We see objects as belonging together if they share a common visual property such as color, size, shape, brightness, and orientation. So here similar objects, which one you consider? If you are having, see for example here you have got circles and you have got a square like structure also. Is it the square like structure is represented in green color? So what you do, you uh, conclude that these are three objects that are together. Okay, that's kept together. It is you can say there is a similarity between these three objects since their color, size, and shape is same. Is it? And you conclude the other two objects, that is square like object you have that are having same color and size, they are belonging to other group. Is it? So that is called similarity. Matching patterns. This is the other perceptual characteristic. Okay, we respond similarly to same shape in different sizes. For example, consider here one of the user interface where you are going to see a ring like structure. Okay, so these are similar kind of, they have they are matching patterns because it has got same shape and size almost. And if you are seeing the other kind of objects here, that is the fourth and fifth object, if you are seeing, it's also having a similar kind of shape. So we may respond in a totally different manner for this object and the object that is kept here. Is it? So that is called matching patterns. And next is substance net. We see an object as having some perfect or simple shape because perfection or simplicity is easier to remember. Okay, so always remember that whenever you design a user interface, you have to keep the design in a very simple shape. For example, simple shape in the sense it may be in a rectangular box or a round shape, or you have a square like structure like this. Okay, so simple shapes will be very good to see. Closure. Our perception is synthetic. It establishes meaningful wholes. If something does not quite close itself, such as circle, square, triangle, or a word, we see it as closed anyway. So that means, see for example here, you see a circle like structure, because even if this circle is not closed, you think that whenever the user uses any particular uh, user interface, he feels that this is a circle itself. Okay, because our perception is synthetic and it establishes any of the shape as closed shape. Okay, it applies not only for circle, it applies for square. So even if the square is not complete, you perceive it as a complete square itself. Okay, even if it is triangle, if the triangle is not closed completely, okay, so suppose I say here you have got a kind of structure like this. Okay, you feel that it's closed triangle, and if you have a square, okay, that also square also will be considered as a complete square. So like this. Okay, what is unity? Objects that form closed shapes are perceived as a group. So that is called unity. Objects that form closed shape, any closed shape are perceived as a group. Okay, so you have a closed shape here. See, this is the objects that form closed shape are perceived as group, one group. Next point you have continuity. Shortened lines may be automatically extended. For example, here you consider one 6, you have written 6. Okay, so you say it as 6. Why? Because even if you have not joined here the lines, the user reads it as 6 itself. Okay, so when the eye is guided to move from one object to another, we speak about the law of continuity. Okay, so this is called law of continuity here. Okay, our perception tends to see an object arranged in lines or curves as more related or grouped. Okay, so even if you see here, see it's written S. Okay, see you see only continuity up to here. Okay, this is continuous up to here, but later part you are going to feel it as it's continued in this manner. So that is S, you read it as S. Okay, so like this, so that is called continuity. Shortened lines may be automatically extended. So even if here you have a shortened lines, okay, you can extend this and you can complete the particular figure. Next is balance. We desire stabilization or equilibrium in our viewing environment. Vertical, horizontal, right and right angles are most visually satisfying and easiest to look at. So that means you say here, for example, whenever you are looking into a graphical user interface on a computer system, okay, that is suppose if you are using a PC or laptop, then how your user interface should be looked. Okay, it should be kept horizontally. Okay, and if it is looked in the same interface, if you are looking in a particular mobile, then it should be placed vertically. So like this, it should be balanced. Okay, we desire stabilization or equilibrium in our viewing environment. Another example you have, that is another perceptual characteristics, is expectancies. Sometimes we perceive not what is there but what we expect to be there. Okay, so that means what is that is, so suppose if you are typing certain words, okay, by mistake you spell it in a different manner, and there is a spelling mistake thing that, okay, your system will be automatically correcting it. Okay, so that is you are expecting it to your system to correct your mistake. Okay, so it's called expectancy. So sometimes we perceive not what is there but what we expect to be there. Okay, so we expect the user interface to correct our simple mistakes, so or you expect something from your user interface users. Okay, that is expectancies. And next you have signals versus noise. Stimuli are called signals. Those that are not important or unwanted are called noise. Okay, so always you get a stimuli. So whenever you interact with the user interface, if suppose you get an reaction back, so that is called signal. We call it as signal. Okay, and if the particular response is annoying, or if it is not related to whatever you have asked, okay, then we call it as a noise. So something you want from the system, we call it as, or the good response, we call it as signal. The unwanted response, we call it as noise. And next is context. Context, environment and surroundings also influence the individual perception. For example, two drawn lines of the same length may look the same length or different lengths depending on the angle of adjacent lines or what other people have said about the size of the line. So this is about context. So say you have a straight line, okay. Okay. Uh, but the two straight lines have different length. Okay, got a different length, suppose. But another user, so you are actually seeing a straight line uh, with size maybe 3 centimeters. But already a user who has used the system, he has said that it is 5 centimeter. Okay, so when you visualizing the user interface, you feel that it's 5 centimeter itself. Even if the line is 3 centimeter, you visualize it as 5 centimeter. Why? Because it's it's there in your mind, okay, that its length is 5 centimeter itself. So that's called context. Okay, context, environment and surroundings. So, environment, okay, the people around you will influence the particular uh, user interface, or influence the user who is going to use the user interface. Okay, his thinking style or the user thinking style will be influenced by the other people who are using the user interface. That's called context. Next important concept that is under human characteristics in design is we consider memory also. Okay, so this has memory of human also has to be considered in user interface. You have short-term memory and long-term memory. So let us see. A short-term memory is a limit generally viewed as 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information. Okay. Knowledge, experience and familiarity govern the size and complexity of the chunks that are being recalled. Short memory generally lasts up to 15 to 30 seconds. Okay. So, what is short-term memory? Maybe you say here you have got a mobile number that's of 12 digit thing that. Okay. How do you memorize those 12 digit number? You make it into chunks. Maybe three digits you remember once. Okay. You are going to fragment those 12 digits and you try to remember it. Okay, so for example you 959196 like this, you read it as two digits in a single you make two digits as a single component, is it, so that you can remind it very easily. So this is mainly for the short term memory. Okay, mainly for short term memory, maybe to uh, memorize your numbers. And a long term memory, so if you are revising the short term memory, it becomes a long term memory, is it. Long term memory is thought to be unlimited. Okay, a human active vocabulary, how many active words usually a human can remind, that's a range 2000 to 3000 words. Okay, and passive words vocabulary, how much you can remember this these many numbers. Okay, our power of recognition is much greater than our power of recall. So we recognize our power of recognition. See, memory, when you are seeing, when you are seeing a particular object, you recognize it. So that is much powerful than uh, uh, what you can say here is it's much greater to recall any of the contents. It helps recognition of any particular words or any numbers. Okay, it will help in memorizing the content for the longer durations. So that is memory. So as I said, you have short-term memory and long-term memory. So to transfer perceptions from short-term memory to long-term memory, conscious effort has to be made. Repeating particular pieces of information results in data transfer from long-term memory. So this is the reason we revise before exam. So you say that you have got an exam. What exactly you do? First, initially, you perceive certain information and you keep it in sensory memory initially. Okay, it will be in your mind, and then you pay much attention for your particular information, and you will be continuously, that will be in working memory. Okay, this sensory memory also maybe you may forget, working memory also you may forget, and later suppose if you recall the particular say your words or your digits, whatever you want to remind. Okay, if you recall it, what happens, it stays in your mind and it becomes long-term memory. So even the long-term memory, if it's not revised, it will be forget, is it, you will forget it. Okay, so long-term memory, if you want to work whenever you need it, you may retrieve it back, long-term memory. So that is about short-term memory and long-term memory. So next characteristics in design, you have sensory storage. So what is this sensory storage? Where exactly it is? So it's a buffer where automatic processing of information collected from our senses takes place. So sensory memory is a place where you are going to uh, process the information collected from senses. So what kind of senses it may be? It may be, the sense may be coming from your eyes, ears, okay, your hands, okay, if your skin, okay, and nose, like this. Okay, senses may be in a different kind, and it whatever the sense you are going to have, okay, or when you are sensing the particular thing, okay, it will be stored in sensory memory, and where it will be stored, it will be stored in short term memory. It becomes a short term memory. Suppose if you recall or rehearsal the particular short term the information whatever you have collected, it becomes a long term memory. So here sensory memory, you know, from where you got it, it's from the senses. So sensory storage is a buffer where automatic processing of information is collected from senses. Okay, various senses. So senses may be iconic, echoic, okay, haptic, all this. And cocktail, so here you have, suppose you say how sensory memory works. So suppose you are given with a name, is it always someone see in a, so here cocktail party effect means what it is, I'll tell you. Suppose you are in a party and you are enjoying your party. That time suppose someone calls your name, and even if in that joy uh, you will be hearing your name, is it, even if you are in fun mood or anything, you will be listening to your name, even if someone calls in a very low voice. So that is cocktail party effect we say. Mm. Why? Because this your name is already heard from heard when you are kid itself, is it? So that thing it will be stored in short term memory, then it has become a long term memory. But even if someone else again calls you, you are retrieving it back from the long term memory, is it? So even if you are in party, you can hear your name very easily, because it has become a long term memory. The name itself has become long term memory. Okay, so that's called cocktail party effect. And habituation means repeated and excessive stimulation can fatigue the sensory storage mechanism. making it less attentive and unable to distinguish what is important. So that's called habituation. Okay. Uh, so design the interface so that all aspects and elements serve a definite purpose. Eliminating the interface noise will ensure that important things will be less likely to be missed. So try to eliminate the interface noises. So unnecessary noises, maybe external, which is unnecessary. Maybe you get a sound or a music when you are interacting with the system. So such things, interface noises, or you get an image. When you are clicking on certain icon, you get at side you get an animation, or think that, okay, you get an animation beside that. So that's also noise, okay, graphical noise you can say. So interface, eliminate the interface noise, okay, so that you make sure that the important things will be shown on the screen. And what are the important things uh, that has to be shown on the screen, and unnecessary noises has to be avoided while designing the user interface. Next important human characteristics is visual acuity. So let's see that what is visual acuity. The capacity of the eye to resolve details is called visual acuity. Okay. So it's the capacity of eye to resolve the details. Visual acuity is how at a distance 2.5 degrees from from point of eye fixation. Okay. So acuity is in the sense, suppose if you are using a particular mobile phone, okay, so this visual acuity will be calculated initially. Why? Because see, some people, elderly people may be using the mobile, even they have to look into the screen very in a very good manner, okay, in a particular distance. Some may vary the distance, some may keep your mobile phones very far, and even if they have kept the mobile phone very far, you'll be able to look into the objects very clearly. So this visual acuity is actually very much important in designing of the user interface, okay, because icons whatever you present on the screen, or menus, or any buttons, submit buttons, all this has to be very clear to the user who is going to use, okay. It will be kept in a certain distance, so this distance also matters here, because your device, uh, the distance between the user and the particular device you are going to use, okay, that distance matters here. So that's why we are looking into the visual acuity here. A 5-degree diameter circle centered around an eye fixation character on a display has been recommended as the area near that character. Okay, 5-degree diameter circle will be visualized usually by a particular person for when he is viewing a user interface. Suppose, assume that here average viewing distance of a display screen is 19 inches. That means one user is sitting at the other end here, and you have a display screen. Assume that viewing distance is 19 inches. Then optimum visual acuity is 1.67 inches in that case. And also assume that the average character sizes and character and the line spacing, whatever you have here, the number of characters on the screen falling within this visual acuity circle is 88. Okay, with the 15 characters, okay, with 15 characters being contained on the widest line. So if you count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 characters you can see in a widest line here, and visual acuity circle is actually 88, contains 88 characters. Okay, and it's consuming 7 rows, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So this is one assumption here about visual acuity, how much you can view from your eyes normally. Okay, if the characters are placed in this manner. So patterns of closely spaced lines or dots are seen to shimmer. This movement can be distracting and disturbing. Patterns for fill-in areas of screens must be carefully chosen to avoid the visual distractions. Next point, you have foveal and peripheral vision. What do you mean by foveal vision? Foveal vision is used to focus directly on something, whereas peripheral vision is senses anything in the area surrounding where we are looking. For example, you are driving here. For example, you are driving. Okay. So when you are looking outside through the window, okay, it's called a peripheral vision, where you are looking to every objects outside the window. Okay, you may visualize it completely. Is it? Whereas foveal vision is when you are focusing on a maybe on horn, okay, or any meter here. Okay, you have a meter here. When you are looking into it, you are not going to visualize the outside objects. Okay, you are going to focus on that. So that's called foveal vision. So foveal vision is used to focus directly on some object, whereas peripheral vision senses anything in the area surrounding where we are looking. So peripheral vision provides clues to where the eye should go next. So this kind of vision, foveal vision and peripheral vision, has to be considered while designing the user interface. So foveal and peripheral vision have a cooperative and competitive nature usually. So now if you consider the foveal vision and peripheral vision has got a very competitive nature. What is sensed in a periphery is passed on to our information processing system. So where is this information processing system? That is in our mind. Okay, whatever you sense through periphery is passed to information processing system along with what is actively being viewed foveal. So you may be focusing on a particular object. Okay, along with that you may be viewing it in a peripheral manner. Okay, so now whatever the peripheral objects you are going to view, okay, peripheral vision, whatever you have viewed has to be also processed in your mind. So now this peripheral vision becomes a visual noise. Okay, so that's called uh, you have a competitive nature between peripheral vision and the uh, foveal vision. And now here, Mori and Hayashi, they have by experimentally they have experimented on this concept and they have evaluated the effect of windows in both foveal and peripheral vision. So what happens to the windows? Okay, performance of a foveal window deteriorates when there are peripheral windows. Okay, so you have a thing that you have a smaller window and a very bigger window. Okay, the performance of a foveal window deteriorates when there is a very big peripheral window which shows every objects on the screen. Hmm. Foveal window, what happens? It only focuses on a particular object, and that's called foveal window. Performance degradation is even greater if the information is peripheral is dynamic. Okay, so care should be exercised or care should be taken while designing the user interface and these visions both kind of peripheral vision uh, peripheral vision's positive nature and negative aspects, so everything has to be considered. Okay, in the mind, information processing happens in two ways, that is higher level processing and lower level processing. You have higher level processing will be slow and sequential in nature. for example, our first exposure to screen leads to higher level processing, whereas as you gain experience with the screen, okay, you'll be having a lower level processing in your mind. So that is, we usually look rather than to see in lower level processing, and we perceive rather than saying. Okay, so suppose if you are reading a particular textbook, you read it very carefully in very first sight. Okay, first if you are seeing, you will be reading it very carefully, so that's called higher level processing. And suppose as you gain experience, if you read it maybe thrice, okay, thrice you read the same textbook, you will be understanding the where exactly the words are present, everything will be knowing, some bit of information you'll be knowing. So then if you are again reading the textbook, after after reading it thrice, again you'll become experienced with the textbook. Okay, that means experienced reader. So then what happens, it will be a lower level processing will happen in your mind. Okay, so what assists this lower level information processing? Visual distinctness of a screen is a strong contributor here. If a screen is jammed with information and clutter, it loses its uniqueness and can be identified through one or more time-consuming and thought-interrupting reading process. So these things have to be kept in mind. Okay, so whenever you design a screen, it should be not cluttered. And it should be very unique in nature. And if you are thinking about the reading time, it should be read very fast. Okay, reading process has to be or reading speed has to be increased. In that way you have to design the user interface. Visual distinctness in screen design is very important in process of lower level. Next you have mental model. A mental model is simply an internal representation of a person's current understanding of something. Okay, so as a result of our experience and culture, we develop mental models of things and people we interact with. So this mental model is very important for a designer actually. So here think that you have a designer of a particular user interface, and at the other end there is a user. Okay, user has got some mental model, that means how the user sees it, it's called a mental model. Okay, after scientific research, they are going to model the mental model to a conceptual model. So this conceptual model will be designed by the designer here. Okay, that means how the different, so every people has got different mental models. Okay, this mental models have to be understood, or they are going to research this mental model, how the user is going to interact with the interface, how he is going to understand the system. So all these are called as mental, it all comes in mental model. Okay, a mental model is a simply internal representation of a person's current understanding of some system. Okay, and this plays, the mental model plays very important role in designing of any user interface. Once the data is being pursued, an appropriate action will be decided upon and a response must be made. In many cases, the response is the movement. So what kind of movement it may be? Movement may be the keyboard movement, or you may be pressing the keys, or you say moving the screen pointer, or pushing the mouse, or rotating the trackball, or clicking a mouse button. All these reactions will be taken place once you are receiving perceiving the data. Okay, and implications in screen design are, what are the implications here is, provide the large objects for important functions. So suppose if you have want to perform, or if you want to show a particular function which is very important, such icons or such menus has to be displayed in a uh, very bigger sizes. Okay, so that is provide larger objects for important functions. and take advantage of pinning actions of sides, top, bottom and corners of the screen. So take the advantages of the sides, bottoms, top of the screen. So any important function if you want to show, you can take the advantage of these corners also. Next point here is learning. Learning has been said it's a process of encoding in long-term memory information that is contained in short-term memory. So you learn the subject, that means whatever you keep in your mind, that it will be stored actually in short-term memory. So if you recall that particular subject, okay, or if you are recalling the particular information, then it becomes a long-term memory. So this process of encoding long-term memory information that's contained in short-term memory. So people prefer to be active, to explore and to use trial and error approach while learning any content. Okay, people are very sensitive even to minor changes. So whenever when you're designing the user interfaces, so if suppose control C, what is the function of control C? You are going to copy, is it? So copy the content. So this function, if you change it, maybe you say you in your user interface you just change the function of this controls. So that minor changes also will be very sensitive, and what happens? The user has to relearn such minor changes, whatever you are going to do in your user interface. So such things has to be avoided actually. Learning can be enhanced if it is if you allow skills acquired in one situation to be used in another somewhat like it. Okay. So the learning will be helpful if you allow the skills whatever you have acquired in one situation. Maybe one app you have already used. Okay. The similar app will be very easy to use for you. So that is skills whatever you have learned for the previous app will be helpful for learning the new application. Okay, so that's you allow skills acquired in one situation to be used in somewhat like it in another situation also. And learning can be enhanced if you provide complete and prompt feedbacks. Hmm? And learning is phased. It requires a person to know only the information needed at that stage of learning process. Okay. Next human characteristics is skill. The human goal, the goal of the human performance is perform skillfully. Okay. Finally, what you want to have is to perform skillfully. Okay. Economy of effort is achieved by establishing a work pace that represents optimum efficiency. So it is accomplished by increasing mastery of system. So economy of effort can be accomplished by increasing mastery of the system through such things as progressive learning, shortcuts, increasing speed, and easier access to information or data. Uh, so economy of effort can be achieved through shortcuts and increasing the speed. Okay. Uh, or if you are able to easily access the information or data, then you can make them users in skillful in nature. Lower order skills tend to become routine and may drop out of consciousness. Screen design must permit development of increasingly skillful performance also. Okay, so this is about skill. If you are saying about skills are actually hierarchical in nature, and many basic skills can be integrated to form the complex skills also. So the essence of skill is actually is the performance of actions or movements in correct time sequences with adequate precision. Okay. So here the main goal of particular user interface designer is to make the uh, user skillful. Okay, skillful means he should be able to use the shortcuts. He should be able to interact with the system in a very faster manner. Okay, and he should be able to access the information or any data very easily. So then you can say that person is skillful, okay, in using the particular user interface. Last point here is you have to keep in mind the individual differences among the people. Okay, the individual differences means uh, the people may look a particular user interface in a different manner. Okay, they may have different feelings, or the users may have different motor capabilities, intellectual capabilities, learning capabilities, and their speed may be different. Maybe you say typing speed may be different with the different people. Okay, so these things have to be kept in mind. And while designing a uh, user designer, user interface designer has to design the user interface uh, to a to a person with the lowest abilities, or selecting the people with the minimum skills. Okay, so for such people, if you are designing the user interface, it will be helpful for the other peoples as well. Okay, so people as well. So that is about user interface design. Uh, and if you are having a multiple versions of the same system, uh, then also there must not be much of the differences in the user interface what you are going to develop. Okay, because you have to keep in mind that there will be a range of users, maybe from the kids may be using certain applications, or the older people also will be using. So they will be having the skill level may be also totally different. Okay, so these individual differences also has to be kept in mind while designing the user interface. So tailor applications to specific needs of the people with varying and changing learning or skill levels. Okay, depending on the needs of the people. So it's in if it's an app you have developed for a particular person, okay, their skill levels also has to be taught, okay, while designing the user interface. Next point here is what makes a system difficult to use in the eyes of its user. So as I said, there is a difference in the knowledge or the attitude that is present with the UI designer and this user who is actually going to finally use the user interface. Okay, so there are certain contributing factors that actually makes the user feel difficult in using the system. So let us see what are the points. First point here is use of jargons. So few words that are used by user interface designer are very difficult to understand by the normal user. Okay, for example, technically user interface designer may use words like segment, boot, or file specification, so append. So like these words, uh, or you can say they generally use a strange language to represent some of the operations. Okay, so this language has to be learned by the user, the general users. Okay, so that becomes there is a language gap between the user and the graphical user interface designer. So that is called use of jargons. So this leads to difficulty in learning the system. And next one you have non-obvious design. So non-obvious design means while using a system, some systems may have operations that have prerequisite conditions. Okay, these prerequisite conditions must be satisfied so that the task will be completed. So such kinds of uh, complex designs. Okay, so if you complete this particular operation with certain prerequisite conditions, okay, this task will be completed. So such conditions will be present normally in the uh, while designing the particular user interfaces. Okay, so this also will be very they may feel, the users will feel difficult to understand these kinds of operations. Okay, and next thing is next point actually you have here is fine distinctions, but we have written it non-obvious design. It's actually a fine distinctions. So fine distinctions means you can say that suppose in your systems, if different actions accomplish same tasks, okay, or different things may result in same actions. So this you can say that if you want to uh, suppose if you are using a user interface, there might be alternatives to click an icon, suppose. Okay, so there are two alternatives. So these things will be actually confusing for the users. Different actions which accomplish the same task or same thing, or different things which may result in same action. So these kinds of confusions will also will be difficult to for the normal user to understand. Next, you have disparity in problem solving strategies. People actually learn best by doing. Actually, if you are given with any application, suppose if you are given to learn the application, then you'll be able to do best with that particular application. So here every time we go for trial and error methods. So generally these computer systems are actually enforced with the error preventing strategies. So that means what? Suppose if you are using a particular application and there is a pop-up message. So suppose if you are doing certain mistakes, okay, what happens? You get a pop-up message and it says if you are clicking OK, it may turn off, or if you are clicking cancel, your task will be terminated, like this. Okay, so you may get certain message on the screen. So what is this? This is actually error preventing strategy. So if you are doing certain errors, you want to uh, the system has to uh, recover from that errors, whatever it has been occurred. Okay, so it shows certain messages on the screen. So there will be different kinds of problem solving strategies. Some may go for trial and error kind of strategy, or some may go for error preventing strategy. Okay, or error correcting strategy also will be there. Mm. The system the system thinks that always people will be doing certain mistakes or errors, and it will be self correcting the errors also. So like this, there will be different kinds of problem solving strategies also. So this may also has to be learned by the user uh, while using certain user interface, how it works actually, if suppose if you are doing any mistake. And next kind you have, that is design inconsistency. Uh, in the systems, the same action may have different names. For example, you say it may say it as save, or sometimes it may write it as keep, or write, list, like this. Okay, so same action, whatever it want to perform, may have different kinds of words. Okay, so all this results in uh, confusion among the users. Okay, or you say sometimes you use not legal instead of using not valid. Okay, so they have to, user generally has to understand these kinds of differences. Hmm. So meaningful or conceptual learning actually is encouraged, and it's very difficult. So here what we understand is these points, whatever here is being used, it leads to what you can say here, it contributes to difficulty in learning of the any user.